Cranium, Mysterious Remain Death, Part 4. You're listening to Girls Love World, wishing you a wonderful listening experience. Chapter 16. It was another busy day for Dr. Buasaya. The reason? The forensic officers from the police department were coming to photograph the bones, after Bua had reported an anomaly found in the fifth pair of ribs on the left side of the still unidentified victim, which showed gunshot wounds. In addition, a meeting was called to update the progress of the investigation into the plane crash, in order to ensure that everyone was on the same page in understanding and taking the next steps in the case. The officer in charge of the case sent a female officer to work, equipped with her toolkit. Bua did not interfere with the officer's work, only reporting what she had discovered and sharing the progress. The victims had been identified, but there were still 7 bodies to be identified. Up until that point, the police had not been able to gather much more information. The fact that the victims were reduced to fragments or skeletons made it difficult to obtain substantial details about the case. Sure, the bones could accurately reveal the victim's sex, age, or ethnicity, but as for the injuries, death by an unnatural means could not be caused without clear signs or obvious injuries, and that was precisely the case. Bua watched the officer dressed in a black lab coat, with the words P.U.J. Lukthan, forensic expert, emblazoned in white on the back, as she moved, crouching and standing up in the forensic room to take photos of the evidence. Bua watched her from the other side of a large glass window that separated the room from her work area. Despite noticing the door opening, she didn't turn around, continuing to pay attention to the officer. From the sound of the footsteps, Bua knew immediately who it was. The figure, about 2 inches taller than her, stopped right in front of her, blocking her view as she leaned on the table, looking out the window, whose curtains were open. Phinya. She handed her a piece of toilet paper, in a teasing tone. To wipe the drool, Phinya muttered, her voice acidic. This made Bua, distracted, automatically bring her hand to her mouth, as if she were wiping something. You're joking, right? Bua replied, defending herself. I wasn't drooling or anything. I almost saw your ears flapping. Please try to control yourself so you don't embarrass the teachers. Phinya replied, her eyes fixed on what she was holding, a clear glass about a foot long, with a pink daisy inside and water halfway up. Ear movement is common in mammals, a leftover ability from when primates were still evolving into the genus Homo. Bua replied, with a mischievous smile. This made Phinya sigh deeply. Bua interpreted everything as animal behavior, and sometimes it was annoying. Even though she knew that, in many cases, she was just trying to provoke her. Phinya couldn't find the words to retort, because, most of the time, the theories Bua mentioned were quite consistent with anthropological hypotheses. Arguing with Bua was often frustrating. I know, Phinya said. Don't forget that we studied together. Bua just nodded, before looking at what Phinya was holding in her hands. This place is as dry as the lab chief. Some flowers will bring some life. Phinya placed the glass with the flower on the lab chief's desk, whom she had just mentioned. This made the owner of the desk cross her arms and twist her lips in displeasure. Do you prefer someone else's pelvis to mine, Dr. Bua? I wasn't looking at that. Bua quickly replied. And I've never seen anyone's pelvis better than yours, Finn. Bua replied, with a slight smile. I've told you before. From where she was, leaning against the table, Bua moved away and sat on the work chair. That your structure is perfectly in accordance with the theory of survival of bipeds that walk upright on Earth. And your S-shaped spine is also impressive. She looked up, with a curious expression. It really is. Really? I was just taking a look as a case study, looking at your face. If I looked at anything below that, I know it wouldn't be appropriate. Case study of what area? Anthropology in general, or specifically about the evolution of species? It's been a while, and you're still attached to something so simple? Friend. When she heard friend, even though she knew it was sarcasm, something strange stirred inside Phinya. Maybe it was karma. In the past, She had always been a rival with Bua, but now, everything seemed to have changed in a surprising way. She knew very well that she was completely enchanted by Bua, to the point where she could hardly shake off this feeling. However, what made it worse was the fact that she wasn't sure what Bua thought about what had happened between the two of them. She didn't like that look. The look Bua gave that young agent, even if for a brief moment, irritated her deeply. She felt like dragging her karma friend to bed and fixing this once and for all. Maybe, after resolving this mess, the two of them needed to have a serious talk. Don't call yourself simple in front of me. You know it's true. I'm just a newly graduated doctor, stuck in my own little world, with no one interested. Bua argued. What's wrong, Dr. Finn? Buasaya asked in a deliberately formal and sarcastic voice. Nothing. I just came to see how things are going. Everything's fine. Bua replied. Everything is under control. Are you sure? Just now you were almost drooling. No, Phinya. You don't call me friend in bed. Phinya immediately replied, unable to resist the provocation, with a mischievous look, making Bua laugh out loud. We're already adults, and you still behave like a jealous child. I'm not jealous. Phinya retorted, making Bua shrug. Well, if you say so. Bua replied, standing up. I'll get some water. My mouth is dry from swallowing so much saliva. And she left the room without hesitation. Be careful, Bua. In a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, Phinya felt her hatred rise again when she went out and found Bua talking to the young agent. The doctor's eyes met Buasaya's, who was offering a bottle of water to that same agent from before. And she even had the ability to say that it was just a case study, but it really wasn't. Dr. Bua, if you're done here, come to my office, please. Finya's voice echoed before she walked between the two, going straight to her office, on the 5th floor. She heard Bua saying goodbye to the agent and walking away. Did you get her number? Her shoe size? Bua replied with an expression of false innocence. Our species has adapted to survive and evolve to the point of having skulls large enough to accommodate 1.35 kilo brains. It shouldn't be that difficult to understand my question. Buasaya couldn't help but laugh, because Phinya had used a sarcastic criticism based on the theory of evolution, something that Bua often used to provoke her. This time, the spell had turned against the witch. 1.35 kilos is the average weight of the human brain, much larger than that of other primates. My brain must be as small as a bean, because I'm a primate from the ancient era that loves to keep its body parallel to the ground. The skull looks big because it's full of sawdust. Bua said with a smirk. And a big brain doesn't necessarily mean being more intelligent. Bua. Oh, the hot agent's number? I got her card this morning. She replied, pulling the card out of her pants pocket. Want it? You can keep it. And she placed the small card on Finya's desk, feigning indifference. Bye, Bua. Phinya said through gritted teeth. If we were dating, my 3-pound brain would think you were jealous, Phinya. Bua approached with a teasing smile, while Phinya visibly seethed with anger. It's nothing, trust me. But even if I told you, you probably wouldn't care, right? Bua concluded on her own, without giving Phinya a chance to respond. And don't forget to call her, okay? She said, pointing to the business card before leaning in again, clearly intending to tease. She whispered to me a little while ago that she's interested in you, so I gave her your card. Bua winked playfully through her square glasses, making Finya's heart almost skip a beat. Dr. Phinya, always so charming. Bua turned around, ready to leave, but was quickly grabbed by Phinya, who wrapped her in a hug from behind. Bye, Bua, what's this about taking another woman's card for me and giving mine to her? Well, Bua replied as she turned to face her. It's in case you want to study a new case. What kind of case? Think of a topic on your own, don't come to me with silly questions. Bua said in a light tone. Research from the same institution can't have the same topic. And please don't copy my study on the pelvis. It took me a while to think about it. Bye Bua. She was really annoying, in a way Phinya had never imagined. It was like trying to catch the wind, impossible. Bua played with words, feigning innocence, leaving Phinya completely confused. It made her want to bang her head against the wall, because she didn't really know what Bua thought or felt about her. And worst of all, she was still handing out cards and suggesting another woman to her with the utmost ease. Didn't Bua see Phinya as something different from a simple bedmate and workmate? Or was Phinya the one going crazy on her own? Are you going to accept this? Phinya asked. If the reason is for the advancement of anthropology, fine. Bua's voice rose a little. I can't stop you, right? But look, my friend, you're just having fun, aren't you? Stop calling me that. Call what? Friend. Okay, boss. Bua answered promptly. Or should I call you vice principal? You haven't even started and you're already using your position to pressure me. Come to my room tonight. Is that an invitation or an order, boss? An order. For reasons of advancement in anthropology. That makes sense. Bua nodded, as if accepting. But, sorry, Vice Principal, I already have an appointment. With who? It's definitely not with you. If there's nothing else for me, I'll go with Dr. Phinya. Bua wasn't committed to anyone, but she wasn't lying. She just needed some time to regroup and be with herself. A lot had happened since the plane crash that made her meet Phinya for the first time in 2 years. It didn't seem like anything more than a reunion between people who didn't get along. Phinya wasn't much different from before, she was still as arrogant as Bua remembered. Maybe even more so, since now they both had their doctorates and changed jobs. However, before she knew it, she found herself lying in the same bed as Phinya, without a single piece of clothing on her body, and wondering how they had gotten to this point. She had been sleeping next to Phinya almost every night. Some of the nights, they were dressed, but many others, they weren't. Bua tried to convince herself that it was nothing more than a physical relationship. Two people who used to hate each other, who competed fiercely in seminars and research, always wanting to be one above the other. The way they had looked at each other in the past was almost contemptuous, and Phinya had even stormed off in anger, leading to Bua being investigated for ethical reasons. What else could there be other than a case study on physiological structure? She had repeated this like a mantra since the first night they were together, and the jealousy she felt was just a childish reaction, a typical possessiveness of someone who doesn't know how to handle a new toy. Eventually, Phinya would get bored and lose interest. With one hand, Bua raised a white can to her lips. That night would be dedicated to writing reports and self-evaluating. As for the problematic mummified skull, she would need to wait for a more precise date before making any decisions. The slight bitterness of the alcohol cleared her mind as she swallowed. After emptying half the can in one go, she set it aside and picked up another. The doctor leaned back on the long sofa, where folders and documents were scattered, with her laptop folded up. She had not yet started working as planned. Then she closed her eyes. The image of Finya's face and irritating smile immediately appeared in her mind. It was so vivid that it was almost like she could hear her whisper calling her name next to her ear. The scent of her perfume hung in the air, almost touching Bua's nose. Humph! Bua exclaimed, frustrated, because the last person she wanted to think about on that quiet night was her personal karma, or friend, as the nomenclature was still being defined. In addition to getting carried away, it seemed like she was losing control of her feelings. Would Phinya really care about someone like her? Thinking about it, she let out a deep sigh, feeling a weight on her heart. She picked up the can of drink next to her and opened it, just as a knock on the door interrupted her. With her mind starting to get foggy, Bua frowned and walked to the door. She peeked through the crack, trying to figure out who it was, especially a certain someone she hadn't told her address to before. She hadn't ordered food for dinner, because she wasn't hungry. When she saw who the visitor was, she let out a sigh and put on the glasses she had propped on her head before opening the door. "There's no one here," she drawled in a sleepy voice. "Bua, are you drunk or are you sleepy?" Phinya asked, noticing the faint smell of alcohol coming from her. "I brought food." "Leave it at the door, delivery man." Bua's answer made the visitor look at her with disdain. "Phinya, is it that tonight?" "I didn't come for that," the new board replied. "I just brought food. Your favorite pad thai." Hearing this, Bua kept her gaze fixed on Phinya for a moment. "Okay." Then, she opened the door for her to come in. "What's on today's agenda?" Phinya asked as she walked in and noticed the cans of white beer, half a dozen in total, with 2 already opened and consumed. "Organize the documents for you." "So to write the report, do you need to drink a beer to cheer yourself up?" "Your face irritates me. Besides, tomorrow is my day off. I want to put some alcohol in my bloodstream. That way my liver will be stronger." "Do you have something important to say? Can you call me, or did you leave it on silent?" "I said I just came to bring food." Phinya put the things she was holding on the table, along with a large bag that she left on the small sofa. "You're the type who worries about sleeping and forgets to eat." After that, she picked up a can of beer, opened it and sat down. "Make yourself comfortable, okay?" Bua couldn't help but tease her, as was her way. "Am I bothering you? Why don't you wait and ask when you're leaving?" "I'm not thinking about leaving." "Phinya. That's why I came, seriously," she stated firmly. "I just wanted to see if you were okay. I noticed that your face wasn't looking so good since you drooled during lunch." "I'm just tired. You know these past few days have been hectic." "Actually, I was planning on asking to stay here." Phinya revealed her goal. "With all my clothes in place, I promise." "Are you needy? Do you want someone to talk to?" "Something like that," Phinya replied. "It seems like we haven't talked about random things in a long time." "Seriously, we never talk, except about work," Bua commented, before letting herself fall on the couch and looking at Phinya, thinking it was a good idea to have someone to keep her company on a tiring night, even if that person was the reason for most of her tiredness. "It's true. Thanks for the pad thai." Bua thanked her, feeling hungrier when she mentioned the food. "Go take a shower first, I mean, if you're really going to spend the night here." This comment made Phinya stand up and start taking off her jacket. Bua moved back and picked up the piece, placing it over her arm. "I'll hang it up for you," the soft voice said as Phinya turned to look at her. Then, the face of the unwanted visitor slowly approached. "You didn't say no. Just a kiss." Bua decided not to refuse what she also wanted. Her body was pulled closer by Phinya's arms, and she felt the familiar lips, but they soon moved away in just a few moments. "That's enough for now." This time, it was Phinya who pulled back, leaning her forehead against Bua's neck. "I don't want to break my promise." "Thank you, and I'll make it up to you." "Don't worry, Bua. I just want you to be honest with yourself. If you ever feel unwell, just tell me, okay?" Phinya said before pressing her lips gently against the other. "I'm going to take a shower now." Then, she went to the table to grab her bag and went into the bathroom. Bua sighed silently as she watched Phinya disappear. How long could she deny the feelings she had? A feeling of fear quickly appeared in her left chest, accompanied by uncertainty about what she would do when the day came when Phinya wanted to leave. Chapter 17. Phinya came out of the bathroom about 20 minutes later, wearing a t-shirt and shorts. She glanced at Bua, who was still sitting on the couch with her eyes closed, as if she was exhausted and without strength. The things Phinya had been kind enough to buy earlier were piled on the small glass table in front of the couch, along with 2 sets of bowls and plates. "Have you eaten yet, Phin?" Bua asked, without opening her eyes. "I was waiting to eat with you." Bua heard, getting up to serve the food on the plates. The uninvited, in turn, threw herself on the couch, picked up the can of beer that was no longer cold, and took a sip. Phinya kept her eyes fixed on Bua almost the entire time. "What's wrong? What are you thinking about?" Bua asked, still not looking at her. "Remembering the old days. Back in the old days, when we used arm bones to hit each other?" Bua replied, finally looking at her. "Thigh bones," Phinya corrected with a smile. "That's right, femur," Bua said, moving the plate of pad thai towards Phinya, who had brought the food to her with such consideration. "Too bad you managed to dodge it," Bua added, with a touch of humor. "If I hadn't dodged it, I would have cracked my head," Phinya replied. "Bye Bua. Why are you so serious?" Bua interrupted, frowning. "I don't like it when you talk like that. Don't you want me to be serious? I remember how seriously you take your work. But right now, I don't want to talk about work." The statement made Phinya raise her eyebrows. "I didn't know you were so observant. Besides having keen eyes and a good memory for anatomical structures, I also pay attention to other things," Bua replied, leaning relaxedly against the small sofa. Actually, Phinya was right. The two had never had the opportunity to talk about trivial matters like normal people. They always ended up arguing or talking about work. Maybe it was the first time that this had happened. "I've known you for 5 years, Bua. We're already entering the 6th. Phinya said, taking the plate of pad thai and starting to eat without adding any seasonings. "But at the same time, it feels like I don't really know you. Because maybe I'm not that interesting after all." "Who said that?" "Myself," the newly graduated doctor replied. "Someone who spent so much time studying, without even lifting her head to see how the world has moved forward, can't be that interesting. You just don't care about the world," Phinya said. "Maybe you're right." Bua took the plate, looking at Phinya before silently putting some pad thai in her mouth. "The world doesn't interest me much. People don't either. But you study people's ethnicity, you should take your eyes off the books and really look at what you're studying," Phinya said. "I see that you're not very good with people, but you're amazing with animals. And don't you find animal behavior interesting?" Bua asked. "I never imagined I'd hear that from an anthropologist who studies human social behavior based on their anatomical structure and adaptation for the survival of the species. If you believe in the idea that we are part of an ecosystem and evolved from animals," Bua justified. "But you can't interpret all behavior as if it were animal." "Why?" Bua replied, pulling the conversation back. "Because that could make the professor withdraw her diploma." Again. Detective Phinya using her position to intimidate me, Bua said playfully, while her mouth was full of pad thai, making her cheeks look even chubbier. That scene made Phinya smile, watching Bua struggle to swallow the food. "You really like using your pack leader behavior to intimidate me, don't you, Phinya?" "Hey, Bua, I'm not a wolf." "Did I say that?" Bua hurried to say. "When I said that, I wasn't thinking about wolves." And she prolonged the last word in a provocative way. "But dogs also have this behavior, they like to dominate, to protect their territory and their objects. Instinct and reason cannot be compared," Phinya commented, unconcerned. "Are you saying that possessiveness is justified?" Bua frowned. "Okay, I don't want to know." "I'm not trying to say that either." "Okay, I really don't want to hear it." Bua. "Outside of working hours, you can't intimidate me." "I can intimidate you even without my position," Phinya replied. "Do you want to see?" "I give in," she countered. "No matter how many years pass, sometimes I still want something to make you shut up." Finya's eyes sparkled for a brief moment as she said this. Bua, listening, let out a sigh and shrugged, putting her dinner aside. Phinya was struggling not to fly at Bua. Sometimes, Bua's carefree attitude made her irritated. If it were before, she would have certainly thrown sharp words or ironies. But now, in her mind, all she could think of was the image of having that woman under her control, doing other things. However, tonight, she herself decided that she would not act like that. Phinya did not like to force anyone in this regard, especially Bua, and she had every intention of not doing anything. But sometimes, Bua was so. She noticed that Bua was sitting there, frowning as if she was deep in thought. "Is everything okay, Bua?" "I can't stop thinking about the plane crash," Bua replied. "It's been going through my head since morning. The police said this might not be a common case." "Of course it's not common," Phinya commented. "There are bullet marks on the victim's bones. How could it be normal? That skull gives me a strange feeling," Bua continued, with a worried expression. "It must be ancient and very valuable. I wouldn't bet on it," said Phinya, who was a doctor specializing in archaeology. "It doesn't look much like what I usually see at excavation sites. It looks new and in good condition," Phinya continued. "There are no marks of wear, cracks, or signs of rodents or anything else that indicates the passage of time, even though the external appearance, like the dry skin stuck to the bone, is very similar." "Are you saying it's fake?" Bua exclaimed, her eyes wide. "It would be more appropriate to say that it could be a new piece that was made recently. I looked at the photos you took, and the more I look, the more convinced I am of this idea," Phinya said. "Speaking of which, did you manage to make the model I asked for?" "I already did," Bua answered quickly, and Phinya nodded. "Why would anyone make a new mummy these days? Do you believe in the hypothesis of making quality copies?" Phinya said enthusiastically. "These days, these cult items are quite valuable. If you had to guess the selling price of an original, could you imagine? Do you know who else goes there besides the thieves who go there every night?" "Who?" "The rich people who like to collect these things, who get in touch to buy directly on the spot." Finya's words left Bua's eyes wide. "Really? They come, look at them and ask to buy them before they are taken to the registry office, or if they are exhibited in a museum, that's it. Some pieces are so desired that people almost hold an auction in front of the grave," Phinya explained, as she put her plate of pad thai aside and took a sip of her beer. She realized that talking to Bua without fear of being pinched, kicked, hit, or suspicious made her happier than she could have imagined in years. Maybe it was because they no longer needed to argue, which made the atmosphere between them more relaxed. Phinya felt that all the irrational anger she felt before, at that moment, seemed to be the biggest mistake she had made in her life. She looked at Bua, who was listening attentively to what was being said. The sparkle in her eyes through her square glasses was captivating. "So, they sold it?" In this world, there are people who value money more than justice. Even those with a lot of knowledge sometimes give in to the power of money, Phinya said, causing Bua to sigh. "Even I have received underhanded offers of prices several times. In the museum, there are many items that have not yet been registered and displayed in showcases. These rich people know this very well. Some even have catalogs in their hands to choose from," Phinya explained. "Really? An Erectus skull was stolen from a back room and sold. Do you know how much was paid for it?" Bua shook her head. "What do you think, earned in 10 years would be just a fraction. If we consider the entire body, it would be multiplied by 2. Erectus skull is worth much more than Dr. Buasaya's salary," Bua joked, letting out a dry laugh. "My teacher once told me that, nowadays, humanity's value has been reduced to numbers," Phinya continued, remembering what happened clearly. "In a short time, I realized that this is true, and I can only wonder how our species evolved so much physically, but it seems that our mental evolution has regressed." She paused to catch her breath, and her gaze seemed a little tired. Bua just watched her with a sparkle in her eyes and a soft smile, before listening to Phinya continue. Our brains are capable of analyzing more, but it seems that we are using this in a search for an advantage, even in relation to our extinct ancestors. The doctor said. Our fingers evolved to be able to bend and handle objects with precision, but we ended up using this to hurt each other. And even with our erect body, which allows us to see further, and we have developed a nervous system that allows us to see the world in 3 dimensions, we ignore those who are closer. Bua just nodded, agreeing with Finya's words, while paying attention to the conversation. It may be that all this evolution of millions of years was in vain. We have a more complex structure, shape, and brain to cause harm to our own species or harm others, Phinya continued. As she finished, she felt Bua's gaze shine brightly under the light of the room. The wide smile that appeared on the lips of her former rival made Finya's heart warm. Is everything okay, Walloy? Yes. Then why are you looking at me like that? Because right now, you make me feel grateful to have met you, Finn. Those words made her smile widely, a smile she couldn't contain. Her face suddenly felt hot, and her heart raced with excitement. You really didn't make mistakes about people. The compliment made Phinya look down at the floor, while she ran her hand through her hair nervously. It was unbelievable how Bua's simple words could make her so embarrassed, and this was the second time her words had left her speechless. I'm going to take a shower first, Bua said, standing up. However, as she tried to walk past Phinya towards the bathroom, her body was grabbed and pulled into a tight hug, followed by a smacking kiss on the cheek. Phinya. I'm starting to understand why everyone seems to like you, Walloy. Phinya lightly pressed her nose into Bua's neck. Phinya, I haven't showered yet. I know, you didn't want to shower with me today. Then, she tightened her grip around Bua's waist even more and looked up to meet her. At that moment, Bua leaned in to kiss Finya's lips, which were waiting there. Her hands wrapped around her neck, moving towards her impulsively. Bua. Phinya said hoarsely, as she removed her lips and looked over her glasses. I don't want you to regret meeting me. Then, she gave Bua a quick kiss and released the hug. Go take a shower. I told you that today you're going to sleep. You're always so kind, Dr. Phinya. Bua joked before disappearing into the bathroom. Walloy. She was really falling for her sleepy karma disguised as a friend. Friend? Chapter 18. Even though good things had been happening in the last few days, it still couldn't be said with full conviction. In fact, Bua considered what was happening between her and Phinya to be one of those rare events that happened once in a lifetime. Even though she knew deep down that someday it would end, she preferred to wait until that time came to deal with it later. However, today was not a good day for Bua. Dr. Buasaya finally had time to open and print the results of the dating test on the mummified skull found in the plane crash, which had just been sent by email 2 hours earlier, after a long wait for the analysis. The report was printed on an A4 sheet that trembled in her hands. She reread it several times, scanning the paper, while calling the laboratory that had performed the test, which confirmed the same result. The analysis had been repeated 3 times, following standard procedure. The accuracy was confirmed at 95%. It was not old, as Phinya had assumed when looking at the X-ray. The dating results confirmed this. This was not a mummy. In fact, it was a mummy, but not as old as a mummy usually is known. The analysis performed with the correct equipment and procedures proved it. Buasaya looked at the result once more, for the umpteenth time that hour. She hurried out of the lab with the report paper in her hands. She walked so fast that, in a few minutes, she was already running towards the 5th floor, where the assistant director's office was. Deep down, she expected her friend to have already arrived. She was in such a hurry that she didn't even knock on the door before entering. Finn. Phinya was sitting, facing the window, staring out, reflecting on everything that had happened up until that moment. Of course, she was also thinking about the events between her and the person who had just invaded her desk. The noise made Phinya turn around quickly. She stood up and walked towards her. What's wrong? Are you missing me already, Buekong? I told you we should go together. The lab sent the dating results. See if I got it wrong. Bua said, agitated, as she handed the paper to the other, who, frowning, took the sheets to read. Phinya was silent for a moment, as if she was processing what she read. Her thin eyebrows were completely furrowed. I knew it. Phinya exclaimed. You checked if they did the analysis 3 times, right? Yes, they checked 3 times. The result is 95% reliable. They couldn't determine the age, Dr. Buasaya said. Tell me what's going on. It's not old enough to calculate the age. Phinya replied. It's 2023. For the carbon-14 dating method to work, the object needs to be older than 1950, that is, older than 73 years. So, it's a fake mummy. Does it look fake to you? Phinya asked, as her eyes remained fixed on the words in the table on the white paper she had just received. Not really. Exactly. And what do we do now? Let's get the skull back, and then we'll figure out the next step. Bua was pacing in circles around the stretcher where the skull of the troubled mummy was, for the 100th time that hour. Finding it at the site of the private plane crash was already strange enough. Now, finding out that this skull was less than 70 years old and could not be considered an ancient relic was even more intriguing. The next question was, what was the true origin of this skull? The situation became even more disturbing when thinking that someone could be playing at making a mummy using ancient methods on a person from the modern era. And the horror multiplied when imagining that this person's death could have occurred unnaturally. Tampering with the body of a deceased person was already illegal, but in this case, it was not the entire body, only the skull had been found. The question that now arose was, where was the rest of the body? Are you going to keep walking around in circles for long, Buekong? Phinya asked, glancing at Bua. After a while, Phinya asked. It's making me dizzy. Then don't look. Bua replied quickly. Turn the other side. I let you look at my pelvis, why can't I look too? Bua noticed that Finya's gaze dropped a little, in a playful tone. My pelvis isn't something worth looking at. Bua replied, slowing down and using the height of the autopsy table to hide from Phinya. Are you going to be embarrassed now? Don't you think it's a little late for that? Phi, speak more quietly, someone might hear and misunderstand. Bua said quickly, looking from side to side cautiously. I'm not afraid of someone hearing. And frankly, I don't care if they get it right or wrong. Shut up. Then stop walking. Phinya threatened. Let's focus on figuring out what to do now. You always push everything onto me. Bua retorted. Don't come at me with that. She replied, clearly anticipating the comment. Is there any other work you haven't thrown at me yet, lazybones? You've been away for 2 years and abandoned all your work, now it's your turn to do some work. If you want to publish your research, take it. I haven't had time to write it and send it to the professor to review, so you can keep the main name. The one I did while you were away, I'm not going to charge anything. Bua said. I remember that back then you kept it like a treasure. You can publish it yourself, I don't want it anymore. Oh, really? Last time you looked like a snake protecting its eggs, hissing and still trying to bite me. I should have changed from biting to, what would be good? Help me think. Anyway, now I have something more valuable to protect. Phinya smiled, watching Bua's expression, who looked away to the autopsy table where the problematic skull was. Don't you want to know what I'm protecting so carefully? Phinya asked, teasing. No. Bua answered shortly and dryly. Let's work. She said, pretending to look for tools, avoiding looking at Phinya, who was on the other side, arms crossed, with a satisfied smile on her face. Then let's work. That way we can finish soon and we can do other things later. Finya's smile widened even more when she saw Bua's face start to blush, the blush spreading from her cheeks to her neck and ears. Do what? Bua asked hesitantly. You know very well. Tonight I'll show you, Phinya replied. Tonight what? Who said you're going to sleep with me? Bua's voice sounded small and she avoided looking directly at Phinya. Then I'll sleep at your place, Phinya suggested casually. But you said I was going to sleep tonight, Bua retorted. But you will sleep, yes. I didn't deny that at all, Phinya replied without missing the chance to tease. Dr. Phinya, can you explain again how mummies are made? I'm confused. What exactly happened? Buasaya quickly changed the subject, realizing she was losing the argument. What era do you want to know about? Phinya asked, crossing her arms again. If it's from the early days, they would place the bodies in the sand under the sun. If it was in an area near a river or where there used to be a lake, the sand would have salt mixed in, which would help the process. With the heat of the place, after about 40 days, the water in the body would be completely removed. In fact, in the early days, there was no deliberate technique. Someone from the time noticed that when the bodies buried in the sand were exposed to the wind, the sand would be blown away and reveal a dry and preserved body, without decomposition. That's when they started thinking of ways to preserve the bodies. So, the main factors are the sand, salt, sun, and dry air that remove the water from the body. Furthermore, burying in sand makes it difficult for bacteria to proliferate. Insects cannot bother or decompose the body, which prevents the deterioration of the skin, which ends up drying out and sticking to the bones. Exactly, Dr. Bua. Phinya confirmed. That was in the first era. Later, they began to develop a more elaborate technique. Phinya continued the explanation. They used natron, a mineral composed of different types of salt found at the bottom of lakes, to preserve the bodies. The first step was to open the body and remove the internal organs. Then, they applied natron to both the body and the organs, and buried the body in the sand for at least 40 days. After that, they covered the body with a resin made from tree sap. Finally, they wrapped the body with several layers of linen soaked in this resin. But do you know what the most intriguing part was? What? Bua asked curiously. When they used a stick to make the brain run out of the nose. Imagine that. Phinya said, making Bua frown and adjust her glasses uncomfortably. And what about this case here, what do you think? Bua asked as she saw Phinya putting on gloves and picking up the problematic skull, turning it from side to side, examining it closely. It was a good job. Phinya replied. The body must have gone through a very well-done preservation process, similar to the ancient techniques. But the fact that the lower jaw is deformed makes me suspect that the person may have been injured before death. Buasaya, who had been listening attentively, nodded as Phinya continued to explain. The technique was very well done. At first glance, it looks like a legitimate mummy, even if it is more recent. The person who did this clearly had some knowledge. This makes it difficult for us to accurately assess the time of death. Because the body was turned into a mummy first. Bua concluded, watching Phinya frown. Analyzing the X-ray, the bones are still new and have not deteriorated. He must have died recently. Phinya commented. And what do we do now? This time, it was Bua who asked the question. We continue to do what we can do. We can start to find out who he is, from the forehead and the brow ridge, which makes me believe he may be a man. We need to know who he was and how he died. The first point is easier than the second. Bua commented, with a worried expression, adjusting her glasses on her nose as she thought about how to solve the problem Phinya had just proposed. Typically, the remaining parts, such as a skull or bones, can indicate sex by the shape and size of the skull, observing the angle of the lower jaw, the brow ridge and the shape of the nose. Age can be estimated by the fusion of the bony plates of the bones of the limbs or fingers and toes. Height is often calculated from the length of large bones, such as those of the leg. In some cases, it is possible to identify previous bone injuries or certain bone diseases. In the case of death, there must be some type of visible trauma, such as a fractured skull, broken bones or wounds caused by sharp objects that exerted enough force to damage the bones. These details can help infer the cause of death, even if not precisely. In general, forensic anthropology work is only a small component of events or cases, and must be supported by physical evidence or testimonies. You can't conclude much just by analyzing the bones. But in this case, all they had was a skull. We need to see what the only organ we have can tell us. Where do you want me to start? Bua asked. You already know and you still ask, Phinya replied. You know, Bua, that I trust you more than anyone else here. Don't pressure me like that, she replied, grimacing. If you knew, you would have bought a hologram, the small voice grumbled regretfully. The hologram won't solve anything. We have to do this ourselves. Phinya teased, with a smile on the corner of her mouth. Dr. Bua, the disciple of the goddess of anthropology. Yeah, if the stress continues like this and I have to do this alone, I'll freak out and run screaming down the lab hallway. Bua promised, with an irritated expression. If you need help, just let me know. I just need a camera and pins to mark the points on the bones, that should be enough. I'll try to create a 2D model on the computer first and let the program calculate, it'll be faster and more accurate. I thought you were going to make a 3D model, I wanted to see it up close. I've only done this a few times. Besides, it'll take a while and I've already forgotten how to model facial muscles. Bua explained. I'll save this for later when I have no other choice. In the meantime, I need some time to review the facial musculature. The two of them were talking about a method called forensic facial reconstruction, which is a forensic anthropology technique. This technique creates a facial representation from an anonymous skull either in 2 or 3 dimensions, to show what the person looked like when they were alive, or, more specifically, what the owner of that skull looked like. However, before the era of 3-dimensional modeling machines or 2-dimensional computer reconstruction, the technique consisted of molding the shape with clay or modeling clay. Using manual modeling. But to be able to make a mold of the face, you need to have knowledge of the anatomy of the facial muscles, of which there are more than 50, to observe the patterns of how the muscles connect to the bones of the face, as well as the depth and thickness of the important tissues, to make the mold as realistic as possible. So, I need to remember everything. That way, next time, I can look at your face, and not just your pelvis. If you don't let me, I can look for other faces. Bua replied. Bye Bua, wait. Phinya exclaimed. Finding someone with the same proportions as me is not easy. Oh, but Dr. Phinya is so beautiful. No, wait, what do you think? Phinya said, smiling, trying to explain herself. Ask the person who sleeps with me every night and you'll see. So, tonight you're going to sleep alone. Bua. Finya's smile disappeared instantly, as she dragged her voice in a pleading tone. No. Chapter 19. Male. Phinya, who was focused on the laptop screen, mumbled the question. She turned to look at Bua, who was standing next to her. In the researcher's hands were a tablet and a white pen. Who? Upon hearing the question, Bua held out the tablet to Phinya. On the screen was a 2-dimensional facial reconstruction of an anonymous male skull. He had a rounded face, small but relatively deep-set eyes, thick lips, and a wide nose. That skull, Bua began to speak. It is a male, adolescent to middle-aged. The age was estimated from the X-ray, observing the already closed cranial sutures, and calculating the average of the points in each area. The age range is between 35 and 65 years. Age assessment based on cranial sutures usually covers a relatively wide range. From adolescence to middle age, the sutures tend to close completely. However, in adolescents and young adults, assessment by cranial suture is less accurate, since the bones are almost fully developed. In newborns, the bones of the skull are not yet fully fused together. This explains the old saying that babies have a soft spot, because the bones of the head are still cartilage and have not fused into a rigid structure, as they do in adults. The bone cells are still developing, and when X-rayed, the sutures, the lines of connection between the bones, can be clearly seen separated. As a person ages, these sutures begin to close, indicating bone maturity. In adults and the elderly, the bones of the skull are already completely fused and begin to show signs of bone degeneration, visible as porosity in the bones after the age of 65. Forensic anthropologists use this knowledge to estimate the approximate age of anonymous bones found. In addition to the skull, bone development in other parts, such as the femur, humerus, and bones of the hands and feet, can also provide clues. Rounded face, oval nasal cavity, eye sockets slightly deeper than average. Bua continued. The X-ray showed that the lower jaw is fractured, which has deformed the jaw by about 1 centimeter to the right, compared to the mid-sagittal plane. She paused to think before continuing. Based on all this information, we can conclude that Asian. Phinya interrupted her. I already suspected it. I adjusted the angle of the deformed jaw millimeter by millimeter. Bua explained. From working so hard, my pen got completely worn out. Can I ask to buy another one? Besides being lazy, you still complain, replied Phinya, who was responsible for authorizing the institute's budget. How did you manage to do this in 5 days? It wasn't me, Bua said with a dry smile. The program does the calculations. The license for this software costs the equivalent of 5 months of my salary. So, it needs to be more efficient and faster than I could do it manually. She sighed before continuing. But it took so long that my shoulders started to hurt. And drawing the muscle fibers was a challenge, in addition to having to adjust the depth of the key points on the face. I didn't want to let the program generate it automatically, afraid that it wouldn't be accurate. Still, I would love to see a handmade reconstruction, Phinya commented. I believe you have a talent for delicate work. The compliment made Bua give a slightly irritated look. You should know that very well. Which part exactly? About the hominid thumbs, which evolved so that modern humans can hold objects and perform delicate work? Phinya asked, with a hint of irony. Yes, after all, we studied together. Bua replied. You were in the front row while I slept in the back. When it comes to the structure of Homo, I'll never be able to compete with you, Phinya admitted. If we tried manual reconstruction, it would take us at least a month to get something that resembles a face, the doctor pondered. For now, I think that's enough. What do you think? I'm still stuck with the idea that he's Asian, Phinya replied calmly. He's definitely not Negroid or Caucasian, which have smaller skulls. The program's database confirms this, Bua explained. I tested the comparison between Asian, Negroid and Caucasian, based on the morphological characteristics of the skull, the shape, size, width of the frontal bone, the adjusted angle of the mandible, the shape of the supraorbital arch and the zygomatic process. All this, considering the skull in its correct anatomical position, in the Frankfurt horizontal reference plane. The horizontal plane is parallel to the ground, using a horizontal reference line that goes from the lowest point under the skull, inferior orbital margin, to the external auditory canal. Bua explained, as she slid her finger across the screen, indicating the mentioned points. She then continued her explanation. I adjusted the 3D calculations and applied the muscle layers based on the average depth of the tissue in relation to the bone positions of each ethnic group, using at least 16 reference points, osteometric markers, on the skull, she said, pausing to take a breath. Phinya just nodded. She knew that when it came to theories in physical anthropology, especially about the morphology of primates and the various species of Homo, she could never match the level of knowledge Bua was demonstrating now. After that, the program calculated the comparison between the characteristics of the skull and the depth of the tissues in relation to the database. The result was 89% Asian, 62% Negroid, and 37% Caucasian. Bua was talking about the 3 main ethnic groups into which Homo sapiens are divided. Asians are the ethnic groups originating and residing in Asia, especially Southeast Asia. The general characteristics include a smaller stature, yellowish skin, and dark brown to black eyes. Negroids are the ethnic groups originating from Africa, comprising populations with dark skin. And lastly, Caucasians are the people living in Europe and North America, with light skin. However, as Phinya had previously mentioned, ancient civilizations that thrived for thousands of years tended to have much greater ethnic diversity than today, due to migration and mixing of peoples. Population diversity makes it difficult to distinguish ethnicities or racial groups as we do today. To be certain, genetic analysis would be required, a process that can take decades. So the fact that the analysis indicated more than 80% Asian characteristics suggests that the owner of this skull was not an ancient Egyptian, as initially assumed, but rather someone who lived in modern times and may have died recently. Comparing with the recently received age test, the skull is less than 75 years old. Then Bua continued. And I also did the additional calculations that you suggested, about some ancient Egyptians having mixed ancestry. I included variables for Europeans, Americans, Africans, and Middle Easterners. However, the results were below 20% for each of these groups, so I ruled that out. I can confirm that this has no connection with Egyptian mummies. Based on the X-ray, dating, and facial reconstruction, the preliminary conclusion is that this skull is recent, and the person was probably from our region, if not our country, then from a neighboring country. Phinya shuddered when she heard this. So, I came to tell you that I will send the image of this unidentified man's face to the police. Maybe they can release it or compare it with the missing persons database. If he is not from our country, he could be from a neighboring country, based on the characteristics of the skull, Bua concluded. Send it now. Phinya replied, agreeing. Have the police given any news about the plane crash? What do you think about that? Bua's face showed concern. Now, the airline that offered the charter flight service has been closed for an indefinite period. Damn. Phinya exclaimed. And now we have this situation. She sighed. I'll talk about it with the professor this afternoon. Will you come with me? Deal, Dr. Finn. Both Phinya and Buasaya were standing in front of the desk of the director of the institute, who was watching them with an expression that was difficult to decipher. A slight smile appeared on the lips of the one they both respected and who could be considered the person who guided and molded them since the beginning of their doctoral studies. Phinya, wearing a formal suit, held a document folder in her right arm, pressed against her body. Bua, in turn, held a tablet with her left hand. I never imagined I would see this scene. Professor Nisara said in a relaxed manner, looking at her two former students as she leaned back in her chair. Sit down. They both obeyed, but the teacher frowned in surprise when she saw Phinya pull out a chair so Bua could sit down. Bua murmured a thank you and looked up at her taller colleague, with a smile and eyes shining behind her square glasses. I still remember the time Bua held a shovel and Phinya a hoe, ready to fight in the middle of field work. The principal commented, making her two former students laugh. If I hadn't run to stop them, someone would have ended up with their heads split open. Back then, I was just a rebellious girl, Professor, Phinya said first. And now? Professor Nisara. Nisara raised an eyebrow and asked, as she saw Phinya look at the person sitting next to her. Whatever. Phinya replied, and soon heard the teacher chuckle softly. Meanwhile, Bua just stared at the table, listening to the conversation without making eye contact with anyone. So, what's today's topic? You two came to see me together, the teacher asked. The plane crash case. Bua, who had been silent for a while, was the one to answer. What happened? I've already talked to you about it before. When I was still in Panama, Buasaya began. We found a mysterious skull that shouldn't have been there. Yes, I remember. Confirmed the supervising teacher. You asked for permission to use the lab and requested extra emergency funds. That's right. Bua nodded. The problem is that the results showed that we couldn't determine the age, because the sample is too recent. I see. And you, Finn, what do you think about that? When I first saw the X-ray, I also thought it wasn't old. Phinya began to speak. So, I waited for the final results to know for sure. If it was an ancient relic, I would have tried to return it to the owner, but the result was that we can't date the skull as an antique because it's too new. She saw the teacher nod. So, I don't really know what to do now. Do you remember what we discussed about this before you went abroad? Remember what I said about the commodification of humanity? People who, even after death, can't rest in peace? Yes. Phinya replied firmly, before looking at Bua beside her. And I was even more intrigued because it seems that the buying and selling of these remains is done as if it were something legal. The young doctor explained. But, since I don't have concrete data, I didn't dare to draw any conclusions. You did well. An assumption should remain just an assumption until it is proven. Until there is reliable information to confirm it. The director stated in a deep voice. In theory, that's how it should be. That's why Phinya asked me to do a facial reconstruction. Bua added. Initially, we were inclined to believe that it was from an Asian person before we started. We were, was it? The teacher asked, with a raised eyebrow. Yes. The two answered almost at the same time, exchanging glances without meaning to, and then looking away. And what happened next? The teacher asked, smiling. So, I used the parameters of an Asian man to make the facial reconstruction in 2 dimensions and then I added the calculations in 3 dimensions. The result was that there were 89% Asian features. Oh, really? The director's tone revealed some concern. So, I adjusted to represent someone from Southeast Asia, taking into account the width of the forehead, the angle of the jaw, the depth of the eye sockets, the shape of the nasal cavities and the depth of the facial muscles. I also added independent variables, such as thick, dark hair and black irises. The result was that the margin of error dropped to 0.01. That's not good, commented teacher Nisara after hearing the explanation. Actually, I made a considerable mistake, Phinya admitted in a calm tone. Although I had my suspicions, I did not think that this skull could have originated in our own country. I also cannot say for sure that it is a forgery. Forgery or not, that is another question, commented the principal. The main question is, who is this unknown man? And how far have you gotten with the investigation? Asked the principal. I am about to send the reconstructed image to the police, in case anyone recognizes him. We were going to report missing persons, but Phinya said it was better to talk to you first. Okay, you can take care of it, Bua. And if the skull of this unknown man was really produced here? What should we do, teacher? I do not like this feeling, I am really scared, because this might not be the first time. Finya's calm voice was filled with concern. I've seen negotiations like this before, but I've never felt this bad. That's why I'm trying to get you to go to the field, because this isn't just an academic goal. The experience you're going to have will teach you how to deal with this kind of situation. The teacher argued, smiling proudly at her student. Did you see how these things are closer to us than we think? I think I'm starting to understand. I already imagined that you might encounter a situation like this in the country. Really? Phinya asked. As anthropologists, this affects us emotionally. That's true, Buasaya replied, after listening attentively for a while. And now, what should we do, teacher? Phinya asked again. First, let's send the case to the police and see what they can find out. In the meantime, I'll try to ask if anyone else has any questions about this. The 2 former PhD students nodded in agreement. As for identifying the victims of the plane crash, we've managed to identify 8 so far, but there are still 7 left. Phinya said. One of them seems to have signs of aggression, but the police haven't made a report yet because they haven't found the weapon. Okay, I get it, Professor Nisara confirmed. If they need anything and I'm not there, Phinya is the one in charge. Otherwise, Bua will take responsibility. Okay, teacher. Bua replied, while Phinya nodded in agreement. We don't want to bother you anymore, thank you. Chapter 20. Buasaya slumped down on the long, soft gray leather sofa, exhausted. She had spent the entire day meticulously reviewing the accuracy of the facial reconstruction and trying to input other variables to see if she could get any different results, but nothing new had emerged. Luckily, there are now programs that speed up and make this work much more accurate. Even though it was only a two-dimensional model, it saved a lot of time. Phinya, stubborn as ever, insisted that they should create a three-dimensional model manually, which Bua thought was unnecessary at this point. However, the stubborn Phinya kept pushing until she started to get irritated. Bua was one step away from ordering Phinya to do the job herself if she made one more peep. The daily workload had Bua almost crawling back to her room, but she felt that fate was still on her side by bringing Phinya from somewhere far away. She vaguely remembered hearing her casually comment the day before that the last country she had been to was probably Spain. She was back from carrying crates and transporting corpses from the last field operation, traveling to Madrid, while sprawled on a four-star hotel bed in the capital. A country that had once had a prosperous civilization. It was during this trip that Phinya received a call from her former advisor, asking her to return to Thailand after having been absent for 2 years. Furthermore, Professor Nisara surprised everyone by appointing Phinya as the vice director of the institute, leaving everyone confused. In any case, the decision was the sole prerogative of the founder of the institute, and Bua never questioned her advisor's decisions. In fact, in the end, this also benefited Bua, as she was able to pass on more than 30% of the responsibilities that would previously have been hers to Phinya. The position of vice director, which Bua had not wanted from the beginning, included sharing classes with undergraduate and graduate students, as well as having Phinya help supervise research projects and mentor new graduate students who were about to arrive. Buasaya then had more time to breathe. Why should she worry about other matters? Many at the institute were well aware of the history between her and Phinya, especially her classmates and younger students, who had witnessed the conflict between the two for the position of the advisor's favorite. At that time, Bua was still ambitious and determined. She was a recognized expert in the theory of human evolution, particularly in the study of primates of the order Homo, which was the heart of the field. In terms of both morphology and social dimensions, it was difficult to find someone with as much knowledge as she did. Although she tried to keep a low profile, it was impossible not to be noticed due to the vastness of her knowledge. But Phinya was no slouch. She, in turn, was the student of a renowned expert in historical human civilizations, and had had numerous opportunities to participate in field missions abroad even before enrolling in her doctorate, in the same program as Bua. Phinya had previously lived in another country that had experienced a genocide, where she participated in the recovery of human remains to identify the victims. As a result, she had much more practical field experience than Bua. This situation resulted in Professor Nisara having 2 brilliant students in the same room. Perhaps this was why they were always fighting. Although their desks were just a few steps apart, they rarely spoke without ending up arguing. Each was excellent in her field and had a unique perspective, until eventually it became better for both of them not to talk anymore. When the advisor realized that things were not going well, she decided to separate the two, offering Phinya scholarships to do fieldwork abroad frequently, while leaving Bua in charge of research and paperwork at the institute. This situation led the other students to consider Bua as the advisor's favorite, and many believed that she would become the star of the field in the future. However, Bua secretly felt a certain envy of Phinya. Although she never mentioned it, she wished, at least once, to go out in the field like Phinya. Still, she knew that her calling lay more in theoretical research. It was then, in the 3rd year of her doctorate, that Phinya unexpectedly accused Bua of stealing her research and resigned. In addition, she filed a formal complaint, which led to Bua being investigated by the Postgraduate Ethics Committee, under suspicion of plagiarism and misappropriation of academic work, disappearing shortly after causing all this commotion. When Bua realized, she was lying on the long sofa, in a room that was not hers. Reviewing facial muscles all day has made my eyes sore. She mumbled, almost sleepily, before lifting her legs onto the sofa and closing her eyes. "If you're going to sleep, at least take a shower first," the owner of the room said firmly as she spoke. "Just a quick nap, please, boss." Within minutes, Bua was already fast asleep, overcome by exhaustion. Phinya went to the next room to get ready, and when she returned, she found her friends sleeping peacefully, the rhythm of her breathing indicating a deep sleep. "Bye, Bua," Phinya murmured, with a soft smile on her lips. She sat down next to the sofa, placing the bottle of water on the small table next to her. Then, she rested her chin on the sofa, watching Bua sleeping. Almost unconsciously, Phinya raised her hand and began to play with the strands of hair that fell on Bua's face. "What did you do to get so exhausted?" She gently removed Bua's glasses, placing them next to the bottle, which was already half empty. Then, without resisting, she leaned over and placed a soft kiss in the middle of Bua's forehead. "Finn," Bua murmured, sleepily, trying to open her eyes. Instinctively, she moved her face towards Phinya, gently capturing the other's lips for a brief moment, while her left hand went up to hold the back of Finya's neck, pulling her closer. "Sleep," Phinya whispered as she pulled her lips away, but Bua's hand was still holding the back of her neck, pulling her back in for another soft, lingering kiss. "We'll leave today for another day." Bua fell asleep again soon after. Phinya remained seated, watching her for a few moments, absent-mindedly playing with her hair. As she stared at Bua, she couldn't help but wonder why she had never looked at her so closely before. Bua had always been right in front of her, but Phinya had let time pass, wasting all those opportunities. The back of Finya's hand slid gently across Bua's cheek, and she couldn't resist leaning in to gently brush her nose against her skin. "Sleepyhead," Phinya murmured, before settling herself on the couch, which seemed too small for the two of them. As she pressed herself against Bua, she instinctively turned around, nuzzling her face into Finya's chest. "You smell so good," Bua murmured, her voice sleepy. "I took a shower, right?" Phinya replied, in a casual tone. "Now go to sleep. I'll make it up to you later, I promise," Bua said, in a whisper. "Just sleep. Stop talking." "Aha." Bua snuggled even closer, and Phinya couldn't help but smile, putting her arm around Bua, closing her eyes too. In a brief moment of reflection, Phinya felt that this was where she really belonged. "So, you weren't really bothered, Bua?" "Bothered?" Bua repeated the question, looking up from the cup of black coffee that was resting next to a stack of documents on 3D facial reconstruction. "Bothered by what?" Fong looked at her in disbelief, while Bua took a slice of bread from her breakfast box. There was still a long day ahead. With the fact that the professor had appointed Phinya as vice principal in her place. "And why would I be bothered?" Bua answered casually, biting the corner of her bread. "Phinya just appeared out of nowhere, and took your position, that's all." "Not bothered at all?" "Really?" Fong insisted. "Not me. I'd rather sleep." Bua answered simply. "I respect the professor's decision, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter to me." She shrugged and took a sip of her coffee. "I'm just sleepy." "And since when have you been friends with Phinya?" "Of course not." Bua answered hurriedly. "Did you happen to see anything that indicated that I get along with her?" Her voice gained a defensive tone, while firing off a series of questions. "Or did you see something?" "I didn't see anything, I'm just curious." "Because, before, you would have definitely complained or made a fuss," Fong said, with a provocative smile. "If complaining doesn't solve anything, then it's better to let it go, I'm tired of fighting." As long as she leaves me alone, I'll even appreciate it. Bua replied with an air of acceptance. Do you still want me to buy you that lunch to comfort you? Fong asked hesitantly. You really don't seem upset at all. If you want to pay, I'll accept. I won't refuse anyone's generosity. Bua said quickly. But it doesn't have to be to comfort me, you know? To be honest, I came back thinking I'd see you two killing each other, like before. Fong continued, now with an amused tone. If, with this level of education, my IQ wasn't accompanied by an increase in EQ, I would have given up studying, it would be a waste of time. Bua replied with a hint of irony. I think Phinya is really cool, said Aeon, who was sitting eating a plate of sticky rice with grilled pork for breakfast. When I asked her to be my advisor, she didn't even hesitate. She's polite, speaks in a soft voice, gives great advice, and she smells nice. Smells nice? Bua repeated the last part, narrowing her eyes suspiciously. Oh, you mean her perfume. I don't know what brand she uses, but I'd like to buy some too. Aeon explained with a shy smile, as she picked up a skewer of meat and put it in her mouth, handing another to Bua, who mumbled a thank you. And have you already talked to her about the orientation? Asked the head of the laboratory. What did Phinya say? She asked me to prepare a study plan, indicating which direction I will follow. Replied Aeon, excited. Bioanthropology is difficult, Fang. Aeon asked curiously, while looking at Fong. Run away while you can. Fong answered seriously. I'm serious. Don't scare her like that, Fong. Bua scolded her friend, laughing a little. Aeon then turned her attention to Bua. And your area, physical anthropology, Bua? What is it like? As we discussed briefly before, in this area you need to be very creative. Bua answered in a playful tone. In the theoretical part, you need to have a good imagination, especially when writing articles. But when you go out into the field, well, all you do is dig holes. It's not as exciting as it seems, unlike that one. She finished, making a slight reference to Phinya. Phinya said she'll find a good field of work for me. Aeon continued. But I'm scared. Don't worry, Aeon. Just don't waste your energy trying to compete with your future coadjunct. Bua said jokingly. She has so much energy that the professor told her to carry crates and do heavy work, otherwise she would complain all the time. Bua concluded with an ironic smile. But historical anthropology is interesting. Phinya's line of research deals with the development of body structure, larger skulls and brains, while the human body decreased in size. This is all linked to environmental factors that influenced migration, sedentarization, the formation of societies and cultures, the emergence of language and changes in the way we live. Ancient civilizations went through many transformations, and in the midst of all this, our species has changed in many ways. Phinya is really good at this subject. I think I just heard you praising Phinya? Fong interrupted in a surprised tone. And you called her Phinya instead of annoying Phinya. And what's wrong? Bua asked with a defiant expression. You look different, Bua, her friend commented, intrigued. Before, you could barely look at her face. We're growing up, Fong. Bua said, shrugging, as if she was torn between her old feelings and the new ones. And that girl. She's really good at what she does, and I can't deny that, Bua admitted with a reluctant shrug. Don't go that way. Feng, with furrowed eyebrows, warned Aeon once more seriously. Follow Bua in physical anthropology or go into historical research with Phinya. This area is not for staying locked in the lab all the time. You're exaggerating a bit. Nowadays, molecular biology in our area is quite popular, Bua objected. And that's exactly why I told her to run away, Fong replied, joking. Then I think I'll go with Phinya anyway. Aeon decided, starting to stab the sticky rice on her plate with a fork and bringing it to her mouth. But is she really that strict? I heard the others saying she had problems before she left. The question made Bua and Fong exchange glances immediately, without needing to agree. Bua pretended to chew the pork skewer, even though there was nothing in her mouth. Ask Bua, they're old rivals. They've even thrown shovels and hoes at each other until the teacher ran to separate the two. Seriously? Aeon quickly turned to Bua, her eyes wide. Bua? That was a long time ago. Bua replied, trying not to sound uncomfortable. Phinya probably forgot about it, or at least I think so. She muttered uncertainly. A discreet cough interrupted the conversation. Phinya, wearing a black dress shirt, appeared at the entrance to the researchers' break room. The sound made everyone in the room jump in fright. Bua quickly picked up her coffee cup and took a sip, trying to hide her surprise, exchanging a quick glance with Fong, who was now silent. Phinya, sawasdi ka. Aeon quickly put her fork aside and gave a formal salute to her future advisor. Phinya nodded in response and entered the room, walking over to the coffee maker and grabbing a white ceramic mug for herself. The room fell silent immediately, so heavy that even Aeon, who was focused on her food, felt the room suddenly freeze, as if the temperature had dropped without warning. No one dared to start a new conversation. The atmosphere in the room was so tense, and Aeon hurriedly packed her things in silence, deciding it was best to leave. Phinya, who had prepared her coffee, turned around and leaned against the table. Fong had her back to her, while Bua sat facing her. With the coffee cup in her hand, Phinya raised it to her lips, pointing a finger at Buasaya, who was doing her best to hide any hint of discomfort. For Phinya, it was better for others to think that she and Bua still didn't get along. In reality, Bua didn't feel comfortable with it, but she accepted that if Phinya didn't say or show anything beyond friendship, they could be considered just friends. It was a fragile friendship, sustained by mutual interests but not by real bonds. What led her to tolerate Phinya's presence was, well, a physical need. Oh, what a pain, Bua, she thought. I'm going out for a quick run, I'll be right back. Fong announced before leaving the room, leaving Bua and Phinya alone, as if two predatory beasts were trapped in the same cage. As soon as Fong was out of sight, Phinya approached Bua, her gaze shining like that of a tiger stalking its prey. Why did you leave so quickly this morning? The vice principal asked, making Bua look around nervously, searching for other people. She adjusted her glasses hesitantly as she met Phinya's eyes. I saw you sleeping and didn't want to wake you up, Bua replied, her voice shaking slightly. I thought you were coming with me. I didn't mean to disturb you, Bua said, watching Phinya sit at the next table, very close to her coffee cup. The atmosphere was tense, and Bua felt the pressure of Phinya's presence as if she was being analyzed. Sorry about that, Phinya said, leaning closer to Bua, causing her long brown hair to almost touch Bua's face. With a gentle touch, she lifted Bua's chin, forcing her to look into her eyes. Then come meet me in my office, sleepyhead. Sure. Bua's tone was sharp, almost ironic, but in truth, she had never shied away from Phinya, much to her own surprise. I need to discuss a few things with you. Yes, boss. As Phinya walked away, Bua still looked a little groggy, even though she had slept better than most the entire night. Suddenly, Bua's absent-minded hand hit the coffee cup, causing it to fall to the floor, where it shattered and the black liquid spilled out. Sorry. Bua hurriedly bent down to pick up the shards of glass. I have so much. Her eyes searched the room for a cloth or broom to clean up the small pieces of glass. A moment later, someone who had heard the noise rushed in. How clumsy, Phinya commented, clearly enjoying the situation. Where did you get this lack of sleep? At that moment, Fong also ran in, calling out. Hey, you two! Split up! Fong's words reminded Phinya of old arguments, when she would use that expression whenever the tension between her and Bua began to rise. I didn't do anything. The sleepy Boaloy knocked over the cup by herself. Phinya said. Let me take care of it, Bua. Aeon said, in a helpful tone. It'll only hurt your hand. She added, already holding a broom and a dustpan. Thank you, Aeon. I've been a bit distracted lately, I'm sorry. Do you want to ask for permission so you can sleep? Phinya interrupted, her voice firm. Can I ask you directly? Bua asked, a little hesitantly. Ask your mom. Phinya replied, already moving away. When you're done here, come to my room. With that, she left quickly, holding her coffee cup. Wasn't everything okay between you two? Fong asked, trying to understand the situation. No, it's not. I thought everything was okay, I was just gone for a minute. No, and now I still need to go talk to her about work. Bua replied, turning to Aeon. Thank you, Aeon. Part 4 end, to be continued. Thank you for spending your time with us. New videos every day at 9 p.m. Don't forget to like and subscribe for the newest videos. See ya.